Money is broken. Everything's getting more expensive, the government's losing control, and the Fed just seems to make things worse. Trying to get decent returns on your savings is challenging. Sound familiar? Noble Gold gets it. Completely focused on honesty and education, their crack team of precious metals experts have helped thousands of investors like you to build and preserve wealth through times like these. Give the team at Noble Gold a call and join the others who've taken advantage of their offer. Find out why precious metals and IRAs are the answer to inflation and financial contagion. They'll guide you through the process and make it easy for you. And this month, they're gifting a stunning free 3-ounce silver American Virtue coin with every qualified IRA above $20,000. You can't go wrong with Noble Gold. Call 877-646-5347 for more. Again, that's 877-646-5347 or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, John Nolan here. Thank you so much for joining us for another inspired conversation. We're excited to welcome back our good friend, really good friend of the Inspired channel, Gareth Icke, host at Iconic and son of David Icke. Thank you so much for joining us, brother.
No, cheers for having me, mate.
It's a pretty intense time everywhere, but also at the Iconic Studios. Your dad just a few days ago, in a kind of unprecedented move, especially for someone who is squeaky clean and has a clean record, was freaking banned from 26 countries in the European Union, which is basically all of Europe. I mean, let's face it. What the hell happened? How's your dad doing? And what does this mean?
Yeah, it's insane. So basically, he was asked to speak at a anti-war, pro-peace, freedom rally in Amsterdam last weekend. Was asked ages and ages ago to do it. Agreed to do it. Yeah, that'd be great. We'll come over and just give a speech. And then some organizations who don't like him, obviously, kind of then started going crazy, which is not abnormal. Like, that's what they do. Like, if you want to stand up and preach anti-war, then you're going to get some grief for it, which seems mad, but it's how it is. And so then the Dutch government got involved, and the Dutch media went insane, and it just blew up over there. I was getting sent links all the time. It's like, this is insane. Like, this was like lead story on mainstream television shows and stuff. It was mad. And so they were trying to get him banned. They were trying to get it all, this whole protest banned and all this kind of stuff. And then there was one real interesting interview on television there where they got a couple of police chiefs in, and this interviewer is saying to them about it. And basically one makes the point, which is like, well, you can't ban it. Like, he's not done anything wrong. Like, all we can do is police the event. And then, if he stands there and starts preaching hate, which obviously he's not going to, but that's what they're throwing at him, then obviously then you can react to that, but you can't ban someone with no criminal record or anything like from entering the country. That we won't be able to do that. To which the interviewer, bear in mind, the interviewer is supposed to be a journalist, so therefore freedom of speech should be strong for a journalist, because they'll only be silencing themselves in the end anyway. He says, "Is there not a way you can find some kind of loophole?" It was just extraordinary to come from a journalist, and they did in the end. They found some loophole, which I don't think, to be fair, that will stand up long term. I don't feel that it will, but obviously, the event was last weekend, so they've got what they wanted, which was him not speaking at that event, and so he was driving down to the south coast of England to get the Channel Tunnel through, and I went out for a run, one of those little 10-minute guilt runs that you do when you've eaten too much, right? And so for some reason, I don't know why, I just thought I'll check my phone, and I did, thankfully, and this email had come through from the Justice Department of Dutch Justice Department, and obviously it's all in Dutch. So I struggle enough with English, so I was like, right. So I forwarded it to my dad and to Christiana, who's Dutch, who was with Dad. So obviously she can translate it. So then she comes back like, "Oh my freaking God, like, this is insane." And the one document basically is an absolute word salad about how you're banned, and it just goes back on itself and tangles itself in a knot. It's a very confusing read. And then the other document is the Dutch terror level, and how the Dutch terror level of level 3, which actually translates as a very real threat of a terrorist attack, terrorist episode, is connected into his banning and why he's banned for 2 years from the EU. it's like terrorism. Like, this is just a guy in his 70s that writes books is going to stand up and give an anti-war speech. Like, what the fuck? Like, this just doesn't make any sense. And so that was that. And then it was quite funny because I tweeted about it, and then some mainstream news outlets picked up on that, and then they try to backpedal a bit because they obviously, I guess they look at social media comments. And don't get me wrong, there was quite a lot of like Ukraine flags in bios that were loving it, obviously, because they're just fucking idiots. But overwhelmingly, it was very much like the response to Alex Jones, where people that support Alex Jones, support my dad, were going, "That's insane." And then lots of people that don't actually like Alex Jones and don't actually like my dad, to be fair, were saying, "Look, I don't like David, but this is insane." Like, or, I don't like Alex Jones, but that's insane. And so public opinion kind of went against the Dutch government, and it went against them in Holland as well, in the Netherlands as well. And so then they started to backpedal. "Oh, no, we were only doing it for his protection." Oh, what the fuck? What does that mean?
For what?
It was for his benefit. We did it for his benefit. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds about right. Which was hilarious because they had that stance to try and kind of backpedal and not make themselves look as bad as people sort of perceiving them. They forgot to tell their prime minister that, though. So when he's over at COP28 or whatever, he was asked questions about it, to which he goes on a big tirade about how, we don't allow hate in our country, we don't allow this, we don't allow that. So it's like, I don't think they'd given him the memo of actually, "Oh, no, we're saying it was for David's protection." Sugar.
I actually saw that, and I don't know, my Dutch is about as good as yours, so I saw the subtitles, and I haven't had it verified, but apparently he slipped somewhere in there, and then he backpedaled and tied himself in knots that there's no place for conspiracy theories in the Netherlands. And I was just like, wow, that's a big ass statement for a prime minister to say. There's just no place for this. I mean, whatever that even means. But your dad did what he always does. I mean, he kind of went forward and onward, and basically just he's everywhere. His face is everywhere. But before we dive into that, right now the facts are that your dad is pretty much confined to the UK, because from there is no other way anywhere else but west to get anywhere. So basically he can stay in the UK. Can he even enter the United States right now? Probably can't. I don't know.
I don't think he can, no. I mean, he's banned from Australia anyway, like, don't forget. Do you know what I mean? That was before COVID, he was banned from there. And then I've had on quite good authority from people that are quite, well sort of qualified to know about these kind of things, that actually lots of other governments, so that this list that my dad's now on, so he's banned from these 26 countries, there's a lot of other countries outside of that 26 that actually use that list of people and apply it to their own nation. And so I was told on good authority that Canada and the US are two countries that do use that. And there's also a lot of other nations within, well, not a lot, because it's not a lot, but a few more nations that are within Europe that actually aren't part of the European Union that also use that list. So, essentially you're banned from Australia, which will mean New Zealand as well, because that place is insane. You're banned from Europe. You'd be banned from the USA and Canada. I mean, it's South America, isn't it, that's left? And obviously, unfortunately, a lot of flights that go south, so either down towards South America or down towards South Africa and places like that, you're having to go through Amsterdam. A lot of that's a big hub. I know Vienna's a big hub as well in terms of, getting to other parts of the world. So I don't know how that works, whether he's not allowed into the EU, but he can be in, Schiphol Airport or whatever. I mean, I don't know if that's how that works, but it's, it's absolutely insane. 2 years. And like, I was talking to my dad about it, and it's like, it's very kind of interesting that it's 2 years, like what is being planned to occur in the next 2 years that they really don't want someone traveling around warning people about,
Well, that's exactly what my thought was. What a random number. But also let's remind ourselves of one thing. There's going to be dictators, drug lords, rapists, murderers that are going to be continue to enter the European Union on a regular basis. And that's always been like that. No one really gave a shit. Convicted felons, all that. The number of protests with your dad present just present, that turned into violent events are zero. The number of people who have even cited David Icke as inspiration or motivation for anything even remotely violent is zero in the history. There has never been any connection between your dad and violent events. If there is some event, I can tell you 100% for sure it's fabricated, because whoever knows your dad, that's the last thing he wants. He's the most nonviolent man I know. So this is crazy. Are there any legal remedies? Is there a route? Is there an objection? Is there an appeal? And is your dad pursuing that?
Well, I'm told that there's quite a few legal things kicking off that are on his behalf. Other people involved with organising the protests and things like that. So we'll see what happens with them. But you know, this was another thing. You know, because I was kind of trying to work out things in my mind, because I'm thinking, okay, yeah, they don't want him there. Of course, they don't want him there. That's obvious. They'd love to ban him from everywhere but his house and the internet. You know, they'd love all that. I get that. But you can only, you know, if you go too far, you alert too many people, because then, like you say, people then just go, well, I'm going to actually look at his stuff more now, because this is, you know, but, and so they wouldn't want to do that. So I was thinking to myself, you know, why go to this level, you know, to stop him talking? What would he do? He'd arrive in Amsterdam. He'd talk for 15 minutes, right, about anti-war, and he'd go home. Like, why would you create all this furore and ban someone from 2 years to stop them speaking for 15 minutes and then going home again? I mean, do you know what I mean? It didn't make much sense to me. And then I was trying to think about it, and it was like, but because they created all the furore, and it was all over the press, like I said, front page news, lead stories on evening news bulletins and all this kind of stuff. Once it got to that point where there wasn't probably a single person in the Netherlands that knew about him, they couldn't allow him to speak. Because if you tell everyone in an entire nation that this guy is a hate preacher, he's an anti-Semite, he's a racist, he's an X, Y, Z, and all this sort of stuff, there's some interest in him now. So yeah, okay, I don't want him in my country and all that kind of stuff. But if he comes to my country and he gives a speech, and then I see someone post a speech online, I'm going to watch it, because, oh God, look at this evil fuck. I mean, yeah, let's have a watch. You're going to, aren't you? And then so he does his 15-minute speech about peace and love and unity and oneness and how race is just a farce, and what then goes through your head as a citizen of Holland? Like, right, because your government, your media, they have all told you all this stuff, and we're like, whoa, man, that's mad. That guy hasn't said anything bad, like, at all. It could flip on them a little bit. And so as soon as I think this is how, you know, I mean, just like theorizing now, mate, do you know what I mean? But this is how I think about it, that once it got to that point where it was everywhere, then they absolutely couldn't let him speak. Like, that just could not happen.
He's always had the status of the renegade that's, you know, that's being banned, even if it's not legally. But I think now it's moving into a whole new category. So from another standpoint, this is what we said initially, right after it happened. This is going to give him a lot of wind in his sails and to his message, which is really all that matters to your dad anyways, because now all these people, because whenever something is banned, that's where people go, hold on now. We might not agree, but what's with the book burning here? I mean, who are you to tell me who and whom I can't listen to? So have you seen this side, whether that reflects in viewer numbers on Iconic, and how does that reflect in interview requests and all that? And is mainstream media outside of this particular event showing more interest again? Because your dad's been saying now for quite some time, we're now at the stage where they're simply ignoring me, pretending I do not exist. Now, well, this has changed dramatically in the past few days. How's that happening?
Well, the media are not reaching out for interviews. They're not reaching out for comment. You know, like the whole time that it was kicking off in Holland, and they were having, you know, like I say, like police chiefs in for interviews, and they were politicians in for interviews, and they were heads of anti-Semitism, so-called charities, and all this kind of stuff in there, and anti-hate groups and all this sort of stuff. They never once went to him for comment, or any of us for comment. I had one request for an interview from a outlet in the Netherlands the day after his banning, which is, you know, it's a bit late now, mate. To which all we replied with was we made a video of basically Dad's comments on the situation. And it was like, right, there's the comments. That's what I have to say about it, basically. Whether or not they ran that, I don't know. But in terms of the British media here, like the BBC just ran a news article as if it was just very matter of fact. You know, they didn't, at no point in the article was there any suggestion that actually this is a bit weird, like this has never happened before, this is a bit of a precedent. You know, that wasn't, it was just very matter of fact, he's banned from. And they give it, you know, they get the word reptile in the first couple of words, obviously, to try and immediately try and discredit and stuff. But the worst one for me was, you know, and, you know, on a personal level, I'm kind of thinking, you know, if I had the money, I would probably take it further, really, because I look at the Daily Mail, right? Now, the Daily Mail ran a news story about it. Well, they obviously said the usual nonsense. But then they said that he claimed Jews were behind the pandemic. It's right there in the subheader, right? And I'm like, so I tweeted at them and the journalist that wrote it, he can call himself a journalist, just saying, can you provide evidence of this, please? Because obviously he's never said that. The guy says it doesn't exist. So how you can't say both. You can't say they created something and it doesn't exist, you know? To which obviously they never replied. But that got a little bit of traction on Twitter where actually people were just saying like, again, I'm not a fan of your dad, but I've never seen him say anything like this. Because, well, no, because he hasn't. Because he doesn't believe it to be the case. So why would he say it? You know, it's absolute bullshit. But they just run that like it's just matter of fact. And you know that people will just go, oh God, did he say it? Oh, it's disgusting. They'll never go, oh, I wonder if he did say it. It's just, oh, of course he said it. The Daily Mail said he said it, which is hilarious because then you get, you know, tarnished with fake news, misinformation, you know, and all that stuff. It's like, mate, these guys are the kings of misinformation. The mainstream media, they've built their entire structure based on misinformation.
But, you know, I think we're seeing a turning of the tide with that too, because more and more big people, big organizations with deep pockets are suing mainstream media outlets, and they're suing them for big money because they've been just running with lies for such a long time. And, you know, literally, you know, killing careers with that too. I mean, now the tide has turned so much that people don't believe it anymore. The trust here in the mainstream media is down to 11%. That's how many people trust in the accuracy of mainstream media, which is great. It's a great sign. But you know, if you ever do decide to take legal action, and I'm pretty sure we can help with our audience and combined audiences to set up a fund. I think people would like to see accountability in the media. I think we need to do that. If we're ever going to have an apparatus that actually does what they're supposed to do. Meanwhile, we're the media, I think, which is also good. But on a personal level, I just wanted to ask, how's your dad doing with it? Because I mean, I know he's a fighter and all, but man, just if I thought, you know, if you're being confined to and it is a small space for someone who's traveled the world over so many times, how's he doing with that?
Yeah, putting a brave face on it, obviously, because you know, that's what men born in the 1950s do. Yeah, I mean, you know, I would think it would be impossible to not be affected by it. You know, because it's not a banning in terms of, you know, you can't tour somewhere or you can't, you know, do an event somewhere, because those bans have been in place in places like the Netherlands and Germany and countries like that for a few years now, where you just can't get a venue. They just get bullied and by these anti-hate groups. And these anti-hate groups say things like, we can't guarantee the safety of your staff if you put him on, because, you know, because that's anti-hate, that apparently threatening. And so they panic and they pull. And so, you know, so that he's been banned on that level for a while. But then at the same time, like, he went down to France recently. They filmed a documentary where they went down to like Rennes de la Chateau and where the Cathars were and all that sort of stuff. So all of a sudden you can't do that anymore. Like if I was still playing ice hockey, or if I was still touring in bands and I got a really good gig in Prague, you know, mate, it's 2,000 place. It's gonna be amazing. I'd love you to be there. Well, I can't be. So, you know, on that sort of level, you know, that's crazy. You know, like a few years ago, basically, I'd say to my dad, right, at Christmas, like, what do you want for Christmas? Nothing, Gaz. Honestly, I don't need anything. But you know that grown-ups say
That's what I say to my kids every year.
Yeah, but if you didn't get anything, you'd be like, I didn't get anything, right? So it's kind of, as I said, I'm going to get you something. So you may as well say what you want. No, I don't want anything gas. I don't want anything gas. Anyway, so I'd end up buying stuff. It'd never get used. It would just be a total waste of time. And so like I'd buy him, like I remember one of them, I bought him a night stay in this old railway station where they'd done it all up, and like I had a train in the station and all the carriages would turn into hotel rooms. It was amazing. And I remember just getting an email like 6 months later going, your voucher's expired. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Oh man. So me and my brother were like, look, we'll just have to organize stuff. Like, and then we would pick a date, we organize it, we pay for the flights, we pay for the accommodation, and we drive to the airport. He's got no choice then. Like, do you know what I mean? So, so we did that. We took him off to the Isle of Man, and then me, my brother and sister, we took him off to a hotel, and we watched England, Pakistan cricket, that kind of stuff. So that's what we would generally do at Christmas, right? And so you think, well, what if we wanted to take Dad to Ireland? Do you know what I mean? What if we want to take Dad to Rome? He likes Italian food. Who doesn't? All of a sudden, those things, which are nothing to do with work, they're nothing to do with conspiracies or whatever. That's just a family having, a weekend away or whatever. All of a sudden, you can't do that. And that's the side of it that I think maybe, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months into this ban, it's going to actually be quite real. Then it's like, this is insane. Like, I can't do stuff that I want to do.
It is insane because we just went through 2.5 years of that systematic insanity where people couldn't travel. I mean, my parents live in Central Europe. They live in Slovenia and Croatia, and during the madness, they couldn't leave the country. I mean, some of them couldn't leave their county. They couldn't leave their jurisdiction, city, whatever. And for some reason, even though it was completely crazy in China style, people felt, okay, well, this is going to go over in a few months, and then and it did. It is better right now. It's not. We're not saying the problem has gone away, but I think we've reached a point with this. I think, and I said this on air. We've reached a point where it's like, okay, we can't look away with that. None of us, nobody should look away when this happens. We should all band together and say, no, this is not happening. People of the European Union, whether they like your dad or not, it's kind of like an election fraud. It doesn't matter if you like the candidate or not. It's not about that. It's about truth, honesty, authenticity. So if there's anything we can do at Inspired and our audience, other than elevate the messages, which we always do, please let us know, because we just don't stand for that kind of crap. We never will. And and your dad as a human being deserves all the freedom, but also we need him to speak, and we need him to be heard. I mean, this is the time. So
100%. The thing is as well, mate, like, it's so short-sighted, and it's ironically, like, I made a video on this, like an Instagram like little video a while ago, to do with Gays Against Groomers being banned from PayPal and other organizations, and it was being celebrated massively, mainly by people on the left. And I was making the point then that, hey, mate, like, if these precedents get set, they get used on you in the end, like, because no one on this planet is 100% on narrative on everything. Like, you can be on narrative on COVID, and digital ID, universal basic income, social credit system, you could think is amazing. You could come from this mindset with, like, surveillance of, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, it shouldn't matter. You can even be that naive. That's fine. But there will be something that you don't agree with the state on, and they will use those precedents on you for that, and, like, it's very, very funny to look at the left, particularly. I mean, I'm not right or left, me, mate. Both cheeks of the same arse. I'm politically homeless, have been forever, basically. But I look at the left and I think they're the ones particularly celebrating the fact that my old man's been banned from all these places. And I go, okay, so the left, I mean, obviously I'm generalizing, but the most vocal people on the left are, okay, you were pro-COVID measures. Okay, you disagree with my dad on that. You're pro-vax. Okay, you disagree with my dad on that. You were pro-lockdowns. You're pro-Ukraine, Zelensky, and that kind of stuff. Like, so you've got all these things. Like, okay, so you're opposed to him on that. Okay, so you celebrate his banning. Brilliant, well done. But most of you are pro-Palestinian. And what they forget is that all these anti-Semitism groups that go for my dad, and anti-hate groups that go for my dad, and have done for years and years and years, that was all born out of him speaking out against Israel on behalf of Palestinians. Right? That's where it all started. They
Which
then
was,
just more,
which was
they
another anti-war, anti-genocide stance that he took. It was and pro-peace, if you will, always. I mean,
exactly. And they then kind of just remorphed their arguments against him for years after that on various different things. But that's where it was. That was the core of it for speaking out against Israel. And so you go, okay, so you disagree with my dad on all these things. You celebrate his banning for all these things, but don't forget that most of you on the left are pro-Palestinian, and that's what the whole thing started with him. So actually, you don't think those people will go for you in the end? Of course they will. Of course they will. And so what will happen when they go for you, when you get, maybe not necessarily banned from a country, but when you get your Twitter deleted or your PayPal deleted, or you get hounded out of your job, who are you going to look for? You're going to look for people to speak up for you. And where are they? They're nowhere, mate, because you celebrated them getting banned, and there's such little foresight that people have with this stuff. Like, if you're not in the less than 1%, they'll go for you in the end.
Oh, 100%. And we've seen this. I remember the day where the live stream on London Real with your dad got cut off in the middle, which was the biggest live stream at that point that's ever happened on YouTube, over 1 million viewers. And people were shocked. Like, it was a legitimate shock. But with every subsequent ban, it's kind of like, oh, we've come to expect it. And we don't want that. We don't want that, oh, we've come to expect it. We're just going to be comfortable with it. I think it's also important that people get very uncomfortable with bans like that are happening to your dad, because you can always argue, if it's someone that has a violent history, if it's someone that's incited violence, you can always argue what they say about safety and this crap. But especially with your dad, all the protests he's spoken at in London and during the COVID time, 100% peaceful, always, always, always. So this just complete bullshit. And as I said before, we want to 100% show our support in every way, shape, or form we can. So please, if there's anything we need to amplify and echo, we will do this. Our audience loves your dad. He's going to be back on December 12th, by the way, or a little later. I think that's when we have the interview. But before I let you go, because I know you have a lot lined up, what is your stance on your new prime minister in the UK, and how do you feel about our elections here in the United States?
It's all just a sham, isn't it? The whole thing's a sham. All of it's a sham. With the UK, I mean, Boris Johnson got elected prime minister, and then he got ousted, and then we got Liz Truss that no one voted for, and then we get Rishi Sunak that no one voted for. Here in the UK, I mean, politics is just a theatre anyway. But we're in a position here where cost of living is insane. Cost of lockdown is what it really is. And actually what it really is actually the cost of not dying. Because it's not the cost of living, because being able to not freeze to death and have enough food in your belly that you don't die, that's not living. Like, that's living in the same way that a fucking hamster lives in a cage. Like, that's not living. That's just surviving. So the cost of not dying crisis is insane. Everything is so expensive now, mate. Honestly, like, it's ridiculous. And so Rishi Sunak then buggers off to this climate conference where he's giving away £11.5 billion of taxpayers' money to foreign countries and developing nations and stuff. And we all know the money doesn't go to those people at all. It's just money laundering. It's just, that's what it is. Won't see any of it. So no one voted for that. No one elected him. So essentially, you kind of got a bit of a dictator here, because, like I say, no one voted for him.
So you got a king that no one voted for, and you got a prime minister that no one voted for.
Yeah, land of the free, isn't it? Yeah, and but what have you got there? You've got a senile old man that just hands money to Zelensky that none of your people voted for. None of you voted for you to give away all your money to arm a foreign government where no one actually knows where that money goes either. Down the casino, probably. Zelensky's worth how many billion? It's got like a £13 million mansion in Florida. This guy was a stand-up comedian in the poorest country in Europe, and he's worth that much. Sure, he's not dodgy, though.
Well, it takes a little bit of money to set up all the green screens and do all the.
Of course it does. Yeah, do you know what? I think we spoke about it before, where it's that thing where they always tell us. Like, they always tell us,
yeah.
Whether it be through symbolism or whatever, So when Zelensky turns up with that T-shirt that says "Welcome to the dark side" on it, and you're like, "Yeah, mate, you always tell us."
They do. So yeah, we're in for an interesting time here in the United States ourselves. You know, yesterday, and you know, this whole we're we're now where people are getting, it's getting normalized that you have to wait for election results in the most modern era where you have the machines and everything's supposed to be easier and faster. Now we have to wait for 10 days to figure out who vote, and we all know why this happens. However, I will always want to end on a positive note, because all of this is now becoming so obvious and so visible. And I think this whole conversation shows this. What's happening to your dad shows this. Yes, the problem is real people are suffering, real people are hurting, and we shouldn't have to go through the hurting. But as you and I have discussed before, I think when it hits people at home, and when it comes close to home, and when my own bottom line is affected, perhaps then I will begin to open my eyes. And that's really, really happening. I know for you and I and our families, we would hope it would happen faster. But I also think with every big event that's obviously a fake, a fraud, and a lie, more and more people are just like, okay, there's systematically something fundamentally wrong with this picture. It's not just isolated events. So I'm hopeful that we're really going through this period of truth, just simple, but returning to truth and realizing what all has happened. Is that kind of how you all see it too?
Yeah, and like we spoke about it before, you know, that it is sad that unfortunately, whether it is because people are just apathetic or whether it's because people are selfish, maybe a bit of both really, that actually it's only when things affect them that they actually give a monkeys about them. And people just go, "Oh, that's bad, isn't it? Anyway, what's on telly?" Whereas when it affects them, you know, it's kind of, oh, I better do something. It's like, yeah, but you know, it wouldn't have actually got to you if you'd have done something a little while ago. But yes, I have the same hope as you, mate. That, you know, when people have nothing left to lose, that's when people start to actually finally grow a spine, because they've got no choice but to grow one. And you know, every single day here, I mean, I've got a friend that works in child services, and she's a lovely person. And not everyone, unfortunately, in child services is a lovely person, but they are, and they go from to houses, and she said, like, the people are just sitting in the cold. Like, they can't put the heating on, they can't eat properly. Like, so they're caring parents, you know, and so they're putting the kids first, so they're not eating, you know. And this isn't, you know, this is England.
It's maddening. You have a king that needs someone to move his pen from one side of the table to the other.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the level of, and who brushes or puts toothpaste on his freaking toothbrush. And you have people in the call. It's just,
this is a king that recommends, you know, being, you know, because of climate change, that we should wear sustainable trousers. You know, I mean, they're about sort of £1,300. Oh, I'll have 2 pairs, please. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the insanity of it. And what is even more maddening to me is not only the fact that he's unelected and he's there, but when he comes to visit the village or town, everyone's got little flags out. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But more and more people are waking up to it. Good. They are. And, you know, that can only be a good thing.
Gareth, please give your best to your whole family. Of course, your dad. We so look forward to having him. Also, please let us know, where can people find you on social media? Where can people find you and watch your show? And what's coming up on Iconic and on your show?
So iconic.com. There's the Right Now weekly show on there. There's In the News Right Now, which is a weekly kind of panel show. And then The Walk as well. A new series is coming out in December, which I hope that people really enjoy. It was really good fun to make. And then every other week we do a What Af, which is just kind of a comedy show where you just kind of look at the nonsense in the world and laugh at it, because you kind of have to really. Well, it's laugh or cry, isn't it, a lot of the time? So I think, you know, let's go for laugh. It's a very British thing to you know, laugh at tragedy, because it just is. Just we have a dark sense of humor. And so, yeah, if you go to iconic.com, you can start a free 7-day trial at any point, so you can take in all these shows and kind of see, you know, what you like and what you don't like. In terms of social media, I'm on Twitter for now. I always say that because, you know, I don't trust Elon Musk as far as I can throw him. So They've already said that my dad's never coming back on Twitter, so that's your freedom of speech for you.
Oh, really? I haven't heard that.
Yeah, so I thought, just in for a penny, in for a pound, I'll go for the appeal, and we'll see how serious they are. But no, it's never coming back. And so I'm on Getter, which is pretty good, I think. And Minds as well. They're pretty good platforms for freedom of speech, and obviously Telegram as well. But in terms of what's coming up, so this week I'm interviewing Vera Shirev, who's a Holocaust survivor, who called out this whole thing early doors. When lots of people were saying, mate, like what they're doing to the unvaccinated, what they're doing to anti-maskers or pro-facers, making them wear stickers and stuff like that. This has real scary kind of, throwback images to
the Yellow Star.
Yeah, to mid-30s Nazi Germany. Because when you compared things with Nazi Germany, people think gun turrets and gas chambers. That's not where it started. It started with the mass dehumanization of a certain portion of the population, not just Jewish people either, but disabled people, Romani gypsies. Lots of people were dehumanized, and the public was made to fear them and hate them, and therefore they'd be apathetic to what you were going to do with them. So as lots of people were making those comparisons, they were called anti-Semites. Of course they were, because it's the buzzword, isn't it? And so Vera Shirev, a Holocaust survivor, comes out and compares it. And that caused a bit of a problem, really, because you're going to struggle to call her that. And so she became a bit of a beacon for a lot of people that kind of felt like they wanted to say something because they felt something wasn't right, but they feared being called labels, because no one likes to be called an anti-Semite or a racist. It's a fucking horrible thing to be called. And so all of a sudden this lady comes along and she's giving speeches at the Nuremberg 2, conference. And it's like, this is an incredible woman. So we're talking to her this week, and we're putting out a Right Now special where normally we kind of have 4 or 5 15-minute interviews, whereas we're going to dedicate the whole episode to her. So I'm really looking forward to doing that, actually, that chat, because I think it would be, really interesting. And it would be kind of funny as well, in the sense of, in the face of you're all anti-Semites, the fact that you're there having a conversation with a Holocaust survivor, it kind of just shows
how
lunacy of that. The lunacy of that accusation. Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to that conversation, Gareth. And I can just, Kristin and I regularly watch Iconic. We love the platform, like really, really great selection. And it's everything from, understanding what's happening. And for that, you have the news kind of shows, and you have the Dot Connector, which your dad does. But then you also have solution-oriented, consciousness-oriented, nature, all those. So it's really, really fantastic. I can just encourage you, Inspire Tribe, check it out, iconic.com. As Gareth said, you get a 7-day free trial, and check it. I think that's 7-day, right?
7-day free trial, yeah. So you just check out whatever you like, the whole channel. I know, kind of a lot of the channels, they'll do a free trial on an aspect of it, but with this, you've got access to everything, the whole channel.
So check it out. We love it, and also please follow Gareth on his socials. Keep up, and please, in all of this, we need to amplify David Icke's message. Simply because when 26 of the most powerful countries in the world ban him, that means what the man says has come very, very too close to the truth, or is completely the truth, over the target. And so we need to amplify that message and make sure that people hear it. Gareth, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for everything your family does. We love having you on. I love our conversations. And as always, it's an open invitations to always come back and chat.
I appreciate that, mate. Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you, brother. And Inspired Tribe, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll be back with you again very, very soon. We're more dedicated than ever to provide authentic, truthful, and uncensored information and inspiration. That's why we created the Inspired community on the free speech platform Locals. There's no censorship, a free flow of information, and it's more personal and intimate. And you can join us as a free member or a paid supporter. Please visit inspired.locals.com and join us today.